Hi, today's video is going to be all about presence, that second level of business. Now, level 1 has a lot of administrative details as we covered in the last video. And if you're at level 2, there's not really a lot of administrative work that needs to be done at level 2. Most of what you're going to be working on in level 2 is sort of testing the waters with your audience and seeing how they connect with the product, service, or offering that you want to provide and the brand that you're trying to create. So some characteristics about level 2. In level 2, there's high productivity. You are coming off a serious adrenaline rush. You've gotten all of these tiny administrative details taken care of in level 1, and it's just so exciting because you feel like you're about to start diving into the meat of your business, which is the products or service that you're going to be offering. Another thing that's happening at this stage is there's been very little planning. You don't really have your systems in place yet, and so you're going to be working in each of the systems to make sure that they're set up correctly, and the framework for each of those individual 7 systems is in place, and that you're starting to develop that discipline of consistency to help make sure your business runs smoothly. Now, hopefully in level 2, you've started to charge a little bit more for your services. You're taking yourself seriously. You're treating your business like it is a business instead of a hobby. So you'll see a slight increase in revenue, maybe $1,000 to $2,500 in revenue. The number of employees at this level is still 1. It's still just you. But you're probably not going to be too overwhelmed just yet because the administrative details are taken care of for the time being. And now you're working on customer and content and things like that, which we'll talk about here in a second. The struggle is definitely survival. Are you going to be able to exist as a business, and are you going to be able to make money? So what level 2 looks like is finding your tribe. You are putting yourself out there, and part of what you're going to be doing in level 2 is seeing who connects and what the key messaging statements needs to be. So there's a lot of trial and error going back and forth between you and your audience. Now, if you read Tribes, the book I recommended in level 1, you're going to understand a little bit more about what I'm talking about when I say that. So if you haven't read Tribes yet, I would highly recommend going back and doing that. Another thing you're going to be doing in level 2 is experimenting with different voices. And you've defined your core, you really understand who you are. You're going to want to play with the values and strengths that you discovered, your principles and your powers that you discovered in module 1, and you're going to want to see which of those principles and powers, those values and strengths translate into a good message that resonates with your audience. And then the other thing that I would like to see anyone in level 2 doing is developing that consistency discipline and starting to at least blog regularly, or starting to put out some kind of consistent content somewhere. That could be YouTube, that could be Instagram, whatever works for you. Just try to start getting consistent content with consistent messaging out there. Now, problems that you'll start to see in the second level of business is having to change plans. So you'll have to move to plan B probably quite a lot. So maybe even plan C, D, or E. And what will happen is you'll put a message out there, and you'll start to realize that it's not resonating with your audience. And you'll need to change game plans and go work on another message or work on crafting another strategy to connect with your audience. Another thing you'll experience in this second level is a lot of platform or technology troubles. So as much as we love technology, sometimes it doesn't work exactly the way we want it to. Just be prepared for this. It's something that happens. The better you learn to just take the technology hiccups in stride and learn to communicate with your audience about them, the easier they'll be able to navigate in the long run. Another problem that level 2 frequently experiences is trying to find revenue. You're really just focused on where is that next sale going to come from, because it's so important for you to find that next sale in order to keep your business running. Most people in level 2 have few systems and policies and procedures in place. These are things that you're going to start to implement in level 2 and level 3 that are going to help you run your business better. So again, don't be afraid of the structure and the consistency that comes with implementing those things. Also in level 2, the presence level, there's always something on fire. There's always some crisis, and it can start to get kind of stressful. One thing that I would encourage you to do is to not allow this to affect your home life and your family life. Try to leave work aside, and even if you're working from home, try not to take it into after hours. Most of the time, I think by learning to work in that second quadrant, we can tend to find some more balance in our life, and the things that are on fire typically don't end up mattering quite as much. Now I'm going to run through a list of things that you can be working on in level 2. So back to module 1, your foundation. If you're in level 2, just continue to work on that self-discovery process. Make sure that you have your core defined. One thing that I would recommend at this level is to kick it up a notch and actually memorize your top 5 principles or value statements, and memorize your top 5 strengths. And those can become keywords and part of your key messaging that can be easy for you to refer back to if they are in your head, memorized, and you can just sort of roll them off your tongue. In terms of the framework part of your business, I highly recommend reading The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And in that book, he talks about setting operations systems into place so that your business can run without you. In level 2, you're still going to be running your business, but I think it's important for you to develop that long-range perspective that you may not always be the person in charge of running your business, and you're going to want to make sure that the structure that you've put into place is going to be there for when you need to hire someone else to help you run it. In terms of the systems on your customer, I would love to see you create an audience survey. And remember that even if you have an audience of 1, it's still an audience that you can serve that's probably going to be willing to pay you money for the products or services that you're providing. Another thing that you can do with your customer is simply ask questions. And this is a practice that I like to incorporate every few blog posts on my Instagram. Just simply asking a question of the audience and seeing how they respond. And again, maybe you don't get a flood of answers, but even just one answer is going to help you get to know your audience better and help you figure out what type of products and services that you can provide for them. On your website, like I mentioned in the last video, I'd love to see you get up a landing page with a spot for someone to sign up with their email address. I mentioned WordPress in that last video, but Squarespace is another great platform that is very easy and intuitive to use, and that might be a good option for you as well. If you've got a little bit more revenue running in, you might think about hiring a developer at this point. I would recommend finding someone who can help you with code and things like that. And maybe not just always a designer, but finding someone who can help you work on your website at this point. They're going to be an important relationship that you're going to want to develop over the long run. And I also wouldn't hesitate to let them know that and try to start building that relationship now. Last but not least, on your website, get your Google Analytics installed and get your Google Webmaster Tools set up and installed if you can. Use your developer for help if you need to on that. On email, your email system, make sure that you are starting to gather leads. And I know I mentioned a couple times now, make sure you have that email sign up on your website. You can also promote your email sign up on social media channels like your Facebook page. You can tell your Instagram following to go sign up for your email newsletter and put that sign up link form in that link in your profile. If you're using MailChimp, which is definitely something I recommend for the early stages of business, MailChimp has built-in forms, and they'll provide a link to that form for you. So you never actually have to leave MailChimp to build your email website form, and you can just send that link out over social media to get followers on that. We're going to talk about content here and sort of segueing into content. Something that you might want to do just as a quick practice would be and this is going to sound a little bit out there, but hop on YouTube. YouTube has a way to automatically record. You can just get on there and start recording. This is a great way for you to get comfortable being in front of a camera. It's definitely a skill set that helps you. over time. It's hard at first, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And in this day and age of digital media, it really helps an audience connect with you if they can see you face to face. So just throwing up a YouTube video and then driving some of that traffic to your email sign-up form would be a good thing that you can do at this stage. And if you do that, actually leave a comment over in the forums and share your video with us so we can get to know you a little bit better. Also on your content, consider developing a list of topics. So you can do this 3 different ways. First of all, you can think about talking about your principles and your values. Make a list of topics, thinking about how do your principles and values, how can you help the world experience your principles and values from your perspective? Another set of topics that you could create at this point would be your strengths. And think about the same thing for your strengths as you would think about for your principles and values. How can you better help the world utilizing your powers and your strengths? And consider writing a series of blog posts talking about each of those things and how you can help others with those strengths. And last but not least, a list of topics would be how are you going to help the people? So your audience. So if you're talking about your principles, you're talking about something that you feel. If you're talking about your powers, you're talking about something that you can offer. Now leaving those 2 things out of the equation, simply talk about the ways that you can help your audience and consider writing a series of blog posts talking specifically about that. Another thing that you can do in this stage is start to develop what my friend Jeff Goins, who has offered us the Intentional Blog course as part of the bonuses of the Biz Designers e-course. He calls this his 3-bucket system. And it is simply a series of steps that you would walk through on a consistent basis, hopefully on a daily basis. This is all about that discipline of consistency again. The first bucket is brainstorm a list of topics. Just do that for 5 to 15 minutes every day. The second step every day, the second bucket, is write a really rough draft about one of those topics every single day. And the third step is to finish a previously written and previously unedited topic for the day. So this is a great way to help you start developing the habit of blogging consistently or creating content consistently and starting to implement that discipline that's going to be so important for you later on for your marketing strategy. Now, on your social media system, we touched on this, but start to ask your audience questions and just seeing how they engage with you. At this point in time, just test the waters. Don't worry about attracting people. So if you post something and you feel like you get crickets, don't worry about it. Just keep posting regularly until you get a response. I would really encourage you to be yourself and see what happens, as opposed to trying to be someone you're not. That's never a good idea. It's going to be hard to maintain a facade by being someone you're not. So definitely just be who you are and start seeing what type of audience that attracts. And then you'll be able to adjust from there as you move forward in business. In terms of your funnel, a book that I would recommend reading is Blue Ocean Strategy. That's a great book that talks about how you want to create a unique product or service and not just basically not a knockoff product or service. So there are lots of products and services already out there, but your unique set of strengths and powers and principles is definitely something that you're going to be able to offer that makes your product or service unique. And learning what those things are and learning how to communicate them is going to be very important for you to position your brand and differentiate yourself in that marketplace. Another thing that you can do on the funnel is just start with free. So you may not have even figured out yet what product or service that you're going to offer, but if you know who you are and you know what your principles are and you know what your powers are, you have enough content to start offering blog posts for free. And every time you offer a blog post, you can ask someone to sign up for your email list. And every time someone signs up for your email list, you're building a bigger audience. Now, it may not happen super fast, but if you do this consistently over time, I promise you will have an audience to talk to. It might take 2 years, but you're going to be moving that direction you want to move. So back to that discipline of consistency, just do it and it'll all work out. Now you took care of, in terms of the administrative system, you took care of a lot of that in the first level and on the from the back to the first video. So you don't need to worry about many administrative details in this level right now. In terms of your branding, I'd love to see you finalize your unique value proposition in this level, and also start to think about a tagline or something that kind of explains what you do in one sentence or less. So that would be something else that you could work on in level 2. Now, the question on this is, how long is it going to take me to get through level 2? And the best answer I have found on this one is, you know you're on the other side of level 2 when your customers start to ask for things. So how that happens is you've typically started talking about your product, talking about your principles or values, talking about your strengths. You may not even be talking about your products or services yet. You also might be talking about your products and services. But if you're talking about those things in a way that helps other people, pretty soon you'll start to see people ask in the comments on your social media, in the comments on your blog, in the comments on wherever you are online, you'll start to see people ask where they can get those products or services, or where they can engage with you more. And you'll know that you are connecting with your audience and you're on the other side of level 2 whenever that starts to happen. So we'll talk about level 3 in the next video.